G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Aussie Starcraft as we bring you another episode of Ladder Shenanigans. It is me in the bottom right hand corner as your red Protoss player, Aussie Starcraft, and the top left as our blue Zerg player, it is Stringer Bell. Now this is because I haven't laddered in so long, been so busy casting and doing other things, it has actually dropped me down to Bronze League, so this will be a Bronze vs Bronze League, certainly not our usual Grandmaster Pro games. And just to be clear for everyone that's new to these type of casts, this certainly isn't me trying to say, look, I'm awesome, super good StarCraft player, check me out. It's just me having fun on the ladder, doing something a bit different, and casting games, you know, just to get a bit of a kick out of it. There's plenty of people casting pro games. I thought it might be fun to cast a few of my own alongside the great games that we do cast here on Aussie StarCraft. So hope you guys enjoy them. You probably get a laugh out of it. I am extremely rusty in this game and just played it a few minutes ago and thought it was quite hilarious how bad I was at some points of it. See me getting supply blocked and all sorts of things. Now I'll give you a bit of a walk through my reasoning as we're playing. You can see our blue player actually checking for proxies, so you can tell he's used to playing in Bronze League. It probably gets proxy 2-gated a lot. He's actually scouting out super early. Now when I saw this, I actually thought that he might be going 6-pill. I thought that's super early scout, possible 6-pill. As you can see, he's not doing that at all, but I'm scouting out now to see, expecting any second to see some Zerglings streaming by, and if that's the case, you'll see me move over another worker now, planning to just drop a gateway and wall off if need be, as my gateway is still a little ways from completion. You'd expect Zerglings to be popping now. I did see his expansion go down, so I was fairly confident there was no 6-pill incoming, and then changed up my mind a little bit. I was fiddling with my build order, trying to decide what to do. As you can see, I dropped my assimilator and didn't actually start mining any gas. I was wanting to do a gateway expand, so I probably shouldn't have built the assimilator at all. But got a bit wonky, couldn't make a decision, and just decided, you know what, I'll start mining gas anyway and grab the Nexus when I get to 400. So pretty wonky starts. You'll see I am very rusty in this game. My opponent just now throwing down his spawning pool and doing a nice long loop with this Overlord as he scouts various locations. I get a bit of a scout off here, just trying to work out what he's up to, and realise he's up to sort of nothing a whole lot different to what you'd expect in your regular games. Gonna throw down a worker. You'll see I brought down a second worker to throw that pylon down. That's how rusty I am, and my probes are a little bit confused. But you know, just trying to try different things. I decided at the end of things, as I got the second base up, that I actually go for some sort of warp prism play. Belshare Vestige, nice narrow ramp here. I thought if I can actually get my warp prism up on the top here, unload and force field the ramp, it's often a great way to beat Zerg, particularly before they can mass anything annoying like Mutalisks. You can often drop here, kill their main base, and then have them at a severe disadvantage. So that's what I decided I'd go for. Just trying to wall off with my Cyber Core and another gateway. And walling off as Protoss is something I really need to work on. You'll see me later on. I end up dropping a gateway here and having to destroy it because I can't get my own Archons out. And that's something I definitely need to work on, either how I wall off or how I elect to, or where I morph in my Dark Templars to form Archons. He's finally making his way across with a few Zerglings. And as you'll see, I'd sort of skimped on the Zealots, so the Zealot's pretty late. And these Zerglings could have been a little bit annoying if they'd ducked in, but he instead chose to just sort of pick away at the doorway and continue to macro up behind this. So fairly standard sort of opening. You see him going quite aggressively on his economy. If we check out the tab, it's actually 25 all. That's probably a good sign that we're both in Bronze League. I've been chrono boosting out a few probes. One of the things I was trying to work on, go back to basics, always be building probes and pylons. And if you're doing that, generally it's well, obviously it's a good habit to get into. But if you're constantly building probes and pylons, and then there's step 3 trying to spend everything you mine, you generally end up in a fairly good position, particularly in these lower league games. So the fundamentals that I decided I'd try and focus on as I, you know, shake off the dust a little bit. It's been a long time since I've played. Been spending a lot of my holidays playing some multiplayer games with my friends overseas. and it's not always easy to sync up with them in my normal schedule. So I've been playing a lot of other games, some Sins of the Solar Empire and some old school Heroes of Might and Magic 6. I like to play a few of the classics and, you know, work our way through those. So been doing a lot of that, and certainly my Starcraft laddering has fallen by the wayside, but I got excited about the fact that Blizzard's announced some WCS Oceania goodness next year, and you know, just a little bit excited to see some premier stuff going on in our region of the world. So as you can see, I'm grabbing my first Immortal. My plan is to get 2 Sentries and an Immortal, and drop them up here. Force field this. Use the Immortal to provide the DPS. Kill off the Queen, and then try and stomp my way through his base. But if we look at my vision for a minute, you'll see that I don't know about his third base going down, but I have a suspicion that it has. It's about time for that. 8 minutes, a bit slow, to be honest, but normally you can expect that third Zerg base to go down anytime soon. He is doing a nice job of scouting around the 8-minute mark, so he does see my Robo and things, and unfortunately going to see my Immortal as well. I wanted to keep these sentries hidden from him. I figured if I could fool him into thinking it was an Immortal sentry attack on the front, he might build a bit more static defense down here and out of the way. So I do warp in a Stalker and start to harass that Overlord a little bit, but I think I'm just a little bit too slow, and he will end up seeing quite a good deal of what's going on. We'll see if he spots those sentries. He does see my Immortal there. What I was very careful is make sure he didn't see my Warp Prism. So he sees my sentries warp in, and that actually supply blocked him, which was a nice little bonus. We'll see how he reacts to this. If he throws down any extra static defense, then we'll know that feint worked quite well. He is throwing down some static at his third base, so he probably does think this is some sort of Sentry Immortal timing attack. But as you'll see, the Immortals and the Sentry already in the Warp Prism, just moving out. Now, as at this point they started hovering a lot of stuff. I should have thrown down a few more Warp Gates and even expanded. As you'll see, he didn't have a whole lot in play, and all I saw at this point in the game was Zerglings. So I did start to think that Mutalisks were probably what he was going for. Bronze League players, not to rag on them, but they do love their Mutalisks. Make it quite easy to nip around the flanks and get some easy damage in. So as I sneak in up the top, I know he's going to have some Zerglings in play. Unfortunately, they're out of position. You'll see I managed to force field the ramp quite nicely, and a little bit slow to start my warping. I know I can drop like 5 of these force fields, so as long as I keep placing good force fields, I know everything will be alright. And that's where I failed here. You'll see I left a little bit of a gap on that right hand side and then renewed the force field in the wrong spot again. So he managed to slide through here. I was a bit slow to get the second force field down, so I could have been doing a lot more damage than this. If you look at the units lost tab, I am starting to rack up the units lost. Well, he's starting to rack them up. I'm starting to do quite well. This Immortal providing a lot of damage here, 8. We'll see that he's morphing 26 Zerglings. I really should have got another Sentry. If I'd force fielded the ramp again, I think it would have been just about GG, because I would have had a base advantage on him, would have removed all his tech structures. The Immortal here, unfortunately, not particularly focus firing anything in particular. I've got 13 kills on him, but my force does eventually die off there. See how it was quite effective at the start of that, sort of tapered off at the end, but I certainly messed with his mining for a bit and got a better sense of what he was doing. As I saw nothing but Zerglings, I was fairly confident that Mutalisks are in fact on the way. I had thrown down a forge at some point. I planned to build some cannons. I did go to run in some zealots, but unfortunately my unupgraded zealots didn't get a whole lot done here. So it did well die horribly for Ire, but unfortunately didn't get a lot done. Did some damage to the static D. Unfortunately, that one force field in that at the ramp was what really turned a potentially great idea into a half-executed alright move. You see he's throwing down some more static D in his main base, doesn't want to fall prey to that again, and producing a lot more drones. So he's droning up quite consistently. Me, I'm trying to decide what I will do. I know that he's going to go Mutalisks. I decided I would build a few Colossi, as they would just chunk through these Zerglings. I could probably just power push his front in after the damage we'd done in the last. A lot more gateways on the way. I was intending to go for some sort of 2-base push, but I realised that going some sort of Zealot Colossi push would leave me horribly exposed to Mutalisks, and momentarily I'll decide that those Mutalisks should be incoming anytime. Even got a Dark Shrine for some versatility. This is a classic case of deciding to go for too much at the same time. Going for a second Robo when I could have just Chrono Boost 2 Colossi out of the first one. That was probably the first mistake. You'll notice I didn't get Thermal Lance, and now a lot of people would think that was a mistake. That was actually intentional. When I saw that he had nothing but Zerglings and Mutalisks, you'll notice that Thermal Lance wouldn't do anything against either of those. Zerglings are in base-to-base contact. Well, if you've mucked up, they are. Or at a range where it wouldn't matter. Mutalisks, I can't shoot them with the Thermal Lance. So I noticed I was low on gas. I'd been a bit slow to put workers in some of my geysers. I was actually on 3 gas here for a chunk of the game. So that was hurting me for gas. You'll see he's morphing a lot of Mutalisks now. First 14 are on the way. I had started throwing down cannons. I was expecting these to come by any minute. I actually expected them a little bit ago, but naturally the damage I did to his main base did slow him down just a little bit. Trying to get my own third base up. His Mutalisks are starting to group up here. Now I didn't know just how many were on the field, but I did know they were coming. So throwing down a lot of cannons, as I know I can't move out and leave my base exposed for the base race. So when I have some cannons, I knew I had my mothership core in position. I knew I could drop a photon overcharge. And as he sweeps in here, I can remember thinking, holy darn, that is a lot of Mutalisks. But you'll see he is starting to take some damage. He's actually focusing my workers down here, which isn't a horrible choice, but it does mean he's taking a lot of damage and not actually removing the static D. If he'd killed those, he probably could have done a bit more damage. Now with the photon overcharge down here, I know my workers are safe. And I know his Mutalisks are just getting hammered between the Stalkers on the low ground, the Photon Overcharge Nexus, and the Stalkers that I was morphing on the high ground. So if we check the units lost tab, still favouring me here. And at some point I decide I'll send all my workers back to work and send some of them over to my new third base. So it takes me a little bit of time to sort myself out. But I've gone through that Mutalisk harass relatively unscathed. It hasn't done a whole lot of damage to my main base. Did kill a few of my workers. If we check out the workers killed tab, he did kill 15, but I have already killed 25 of his, so I'm not feeling very bad on that front. And feeling quite confident moving on. I have my 2-2 upgrades. Let's see what he had at that point in time. Hasn't actually invested in any upgrades. So yeah, so I've got a slight upgrade edge. And my +2 weapons almost finished. So I decide I'll move out here. I've defended his first group of Mutalisks, and I decide I really need to put some pressure on him before he gets too far ahead. And momentarily I'll drop a Dark Templar and decide I'll send it to DT one way at the base I know isn't established yet, and that way I'll know when it is. He does send a few Zerglings here. I have already established some cannons, and normally I'll wall these off with gateways just to make it a little bit safer. If the Zerglings can't get in contact with your cannons, it makes it very counter-attack proof, and that was certainly my goal with that third base, make it very safe so I can push out like this and not have to worry about it. You'll see actually built quite a few Corruptors, and that was a good move for versing my Colossi. You'll see me here right as he's trying to throw down this defense. I'm set up here to do some damage. I see these Banelings as they come down the ramp, and you'll see me grab my thing and force field off. That's going to keep the Banelings off for just long enough that I actually get quite cost efficient in this engagement. It's 10,000 to 4,000. Eventually he does make his way through and smash my stuff. I actually should have kept the Colossi in behind my Stalkers, and that was my poor decision there. I tried to go and I wanted to do some more economic damage, but I ended up stuck between his Corruptors and his Spine Crawlers, so not the greatest choice there. I decided it's time to fall back. Dark Templar here is going to mop up his other base, so I know it's 3 base to 3 base. I do need to establish my third a little bit. I'm not mining very well, but I am trying to get nice cost-effective engagements. And I've done pretty well at that so far. As you can see, I'm double his cost efficiency. And for some reason he's building a lot of Banelings. I never quite did work that out in the game. He was building stacks of Banelings. I could understand Ling Baneling Muta very good against Terran, but against Protoss not always the go-to strategy. Normally you need something a bit thicker than Banelings. And this is where I started morphing Archons. I thought Archons are going to be money against the Zerglings. They just splash damage and annihilate them. Also very good against the Banelings, can tank a lot of damage and do a lot of damage. And I thought I'd grab Blink as well, as he seemed to have quite a big air force going on. And my poor Dark Templar tanking a few Banelings there before dying. So Stringer Bell, I like what he's doing, throwing down static defense. A lot of Zerg players refuse to do this, but particularly at your 3rd and 4th bases, throwing down that static defense does give you a lot more versatility. So Stringer Bell, obviously thinking he's got a bit of the edge here. He does have a supply advantage, 159 to 120, but I know just how hard it is for a Zerg player to try and close out a game, particularly with narrow chokes and no upgrades. Like, he's going to really struggle to break through this front door. And here's where I unfortunately work out that my Archons can't actually get out. That could have been very bad for me if this battle had occurred now. But my Archons were stuck, and I eventually worked that out and blow up this barracks. So I wonder how you guys decide to wall it. Most people wall off with this narrow one gap and block it with a Zealot. Certainly what you see most people doing, but for some reason Archons can't get through there. I know they're a massive unit, but I guess most other players generally warp in their Dark Templar outside and morph the Archons there later, so maybe they don't run into that problem for that reason. I actually have a Warp Prism here, and it's quite funny that he didn't actually see it as his unit spotted it, but unfortunately was paying attention elsewhere, obviously gearing up for this big counter-attack. And these cannons are going to do a bit of damage, but this many Banelings is going to clear up my Nexus. You'll see him just focus straight down on my Nexus, and his units wrap around are going to wipe this out. I do a bit of damage and decide, alright boys, going for the base race. There was a few reasons for that. I knew most of the Banelings did die to wipe out my cannons and things. I warped in a big group of Zealots up here and realised that was probably the wrong choice. I did spot that there was no detection here and figured, right, Dark Templars are next. Muscled in on his 4th base over here and killed that quite easily. I knew his Mutalists and Banelings would be on their way over, but got the Archons in position at the front. So the Archons and Zealots tanked all those Banelings, and the 3-2 Stalkers or 3-1 Stalkers able to work their way through those Mutalisks. So in the end I managed to win that game. It was pretty wonky. Failed on my earliest attack up here, force fielding. If you're going to hinge your plan on force fielding a ramp, guys, you've got to actually force field the whole ramp. So, you know, it was a good attempt, nice strategy. Certainly I've seen it work to good effect. Certainly not something your opponents expect, so give it a shot. You'll see I warped in the Dark Templars so I could take that other base, and I was down to 2 bases, but I was up on units on him and had a much better composition. So yeah, that's the latest episode of Ladder Shenanigans. I think we're up to episode 4. I have another game following this one up that we'll upload over the coming days as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Go out there and play some Starcraft of your own, have some fun. You know, don't whether you're a Grandmaster or a Bundesliga like me at the moment, you know, go out and have some fun. That's what the game's all about after all. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll catch you in the next cast.